That's what, especially with deeper philosophies, you have to think about them. So very seldom do people make instantaneous judgments, but unfortunately, because it's convenient, because you don't have to do any homework, there will be an instant rejection often of most things. Now, when you reject things at any age, but certainly when you're younger, there's almost certainly information there that you may be able to interpret when you're older, and it will make more sense. So the way to benefit from all this at any time in your life, now pay attention girls, if you can, what happens is you tend to reject too much stuff, yeah, or accept wrong stuff because you don't have the firewall equipped necessarily to protect your mind. So what the suggestion to me was, and what I'm passing on to you, can you follow it so far, is to actually hear what people have to say, but just leave it out there somewhere, just hold it. You don't have to make a decision on whether you accept it or reject it, because you've got no reason to. You've just got bits of a jigsaw and you haven't yet built the jigsaw because you cannot see the pattern, okay? As you go through life, and you're older, you're not 16, you realise you learn much more and more and more and more. Some things happen and a bit of that jigsaw falls into place. And all that information that would have been rejected, or maybe you would have had a prejudice against in some way or the other, you can fit together, and it might even form a different opinion in your mind. But it almost certainly make you a more complete individual with a clearer picture that you can go out with other people and discuss, like I am with you. Now they got bored because it's too intellectual, I suspect. Now, do you understand what I'm saying? That's the point of my situation. Do you understand the point of my talk? The point of my, yes, do you understand the point of my talk? Yeah. Girls, where are you? They understand it. No, they didn't. Did you really not understand the point of my talk when I was talking? I want honesty. No, did you then? Why? What did I do wrong? That's what I'm interested in. Oh right, so I wasn't. Okay, fair enough. That's important information to me. I appreciate that. I do like. I always say I like an audience with intelligence, and then I ask everyone to put their hand up who's of lower intelligence. And do you know what? No hands go up, which is a bit worrying, isn't it? Or who feel they're of lower intelligence, but that doesn't matter. It's just for a laugh. But certainly I do require congruence, honesty, as best you can. You know, because we're often honest and wrong. But mate, if you go through life, other point, if you go through life acting with best intention, yeah, acting with best intention, if everyone here does that, and towards other people, and for the benefit of mankind, if you like, but certainly other people you meet, then we'll be in a better place. It's just that people don't do that because they're picked on by other people and contaminated. Yeah? You get this dislike of people, prejudice, often perpetuated by the media. Yeah? And that's why I'm saying you should never believe anything, just read it. Just hold it. And then, but read widely and hold it. They might be all wrong. In the media, they usually are. You get it in, they might be right. But I get suspicious. I do tend to arrange in a kind of, what's the word, a priority, but keep it out there. I get suspicious when something happens, and then all the media, like there's a plane crash, and then all the big media are coughing up the same story, using exactly the same words. Right, switch that off. That's illegal in the park. Good, get out then. Yeah, I don't need you as spokesman. I want to talk to these people. I won't talk to you. I won't talk to you. He obviously thinks he's a front man. Anyway, where was I? Sorry. Yeah, the media all come out with the same story. And often they haven't even taken what they call the black box out of the aircraft yet. There's been no inquiry. That's when you know that is probably low quality. Yes, there might have been one single source for that instantly repeated story, but if that source is wrong, that's bad news. Always look behind the scenes, look behind the scenes. It's a lot of fun. You start that now, but in 10 years' time, you'll be totally unacceptable by society, because you'll see what's real. Yeah, you become what's called a skeptic. Skepticism is good. Yeah, you question everything. You don't accept anything unless you really believe it's good. And even then, you can still live within the knowledge, but you don't have to hold it in your inside, just in case it's wrong. Is that reasonable? Yeah, it seems reasonable to me. Anyway, so the reason I come here was to talk about that, but to talk about culture, which was I talked about this last time I was here and the time before, and I had some lovely feedback from audiences. to work out what culture really is and what it really isn't, and how it's beneficial to people if actually it's essential. Now, what is your take on culture? What do you think culture is? Don't worry about being right or wrong, who cares? Just give it to me. Culture. What does that word mean? Right, culture means I don't know how to answer. That's absolutely fine. You've done your best. No, you actually thought. That's great. You actually thought about it, which that's your first step. Right, anyone else? Maybe a bit older or wiser. I've met 11-year-olds that know everything. A couple of them. One to the States they were. I think these boys, they knew everything. I couldn't believe it. Unbelievable. So I disregard age. If you're here, you get treated the same as someone else. Great. Now, but of course, age does count. Even though I read in the newspaper the other day that they reckon you can identify at any age if you like, you know. But strangely enough, everyone wanted to identify as being younger. Now that's funny, isn't it? Because you know, really you'd want to identify as having the brain of a 100-year-old, you know, because you've got all the information there. But anyone here want to offer me what they think culture is? Yeah, I guess that's about right, really. Yeah, okay, bye then. No. Yeah, that's about right. But the trouble is, it can be a good principle or a bad principle, depending on how you want to measure it. Now, I'd thought that with a culture, it's a means of communicating between groups of individuals with a common, some element of commonality. Okay. If you can't communicate, you cannot use each other's talents, gifts, qualities, attributes, because you won't be able. You might dislike them, or you might not be able to talk to them. You know, when you meet a complete stranger, you don't warm to them. You walk up to a stranger and smile genuinely. You can't. If I crack a little joke because you know me a little bit, you might smile a bit because you've warmed. If you have a agreed mechanism of communicating side between individuals, just like your hormones do internally, or your neurology does internally, then you can actually, there's an understanding, especially in my consideration of forgiveness and tolerance, because we all make mistakes and we're all different, but we want to benefit from each other's contributions, then you have a successful culture. When you have a successful culture, to me, it's defined on much the same things as you said, a bit more detail. They'll have economic security. It's an environment that they can thrive and prosper, and also they have a degree of, as best they can, of well-being. It means that you can be efficient, and with efficiency you don't have to work so hard, because you're all different and you're all given the best. It's all coordinated. It's like when you do a job, if you're cleaning your room up, I don't want to be condescending here, but if you're cleaning your room up and your sister helps you, you don't do it in half the time, you do it in a quarter of the time. So there's disproportionate benefit. That's why we have such lovely things, these cameras, and recording me. We wouldn't have these things if it wasn't for that. So you rise up in quality of life. Now, when you get spare time, and in spare time you can have children, you can nurture the children in the best way to fit in that culture. That's important. You can educate them, and you can indulge in the arts. And arts are about communication. So in the fine arts, you get more into communicating ideas, thoughts, emotions between each other. Very powerful is a culture. When you've got an enemy, let's say you want to overcome another country, the last thing you want is them to have a strong culture, especially a strong family culture and a belief in their system. And of course, if you want to undermine a country, the best warfare you can do is cultural warfare. You sow seeds of contamination and doubt. And unfortunately, as cultures get stronger and stronger, you can accrue more and more spare time and more money and riches. The generations become lazy, easily influenced, and so hence the cycle, it seems to me. But when you have a strong culture, what does that enable you to do? That enables you to offer, should they wish, any other culture that may be in need of failing, help to recover their state. Because the more successful cultures around us, the more stable we are as a globe. And that's what people want, isn't it? Or am I talking nonsense? I don't know. No, you're not. You don't have the right to cycle through on a Sundays. Tell all your friends when you go back home. Yeah. Well, goodbye. Nice knowing you. So, what do you reckon on that? Did you understand what I just said about the culture, the build-up, the structure, the benefits? Good. Take it somewhere else, or bring someone back here who can find fault in it. Because if you find fault in it, and I understand what you're saying, then I can better perfect my understanding. Okay, that's why I'm here, in actual fact. So come. Yeah, thank you very much. You're very kind. I can't be kidding me. Go away. Can't believe that for a minute. I'm not used to that kind of comment. Oh, well, that's it. Everybody's gone now. Well, I think I'll have my little talk. For the sake of this huge crowd I've got here, you're all very silent, but nevertheless, I had a thought the other day that I'll put your way. And that is, you ever wondered why certain people tend to be left-wing and right-wing? Why they tend to be sort of socialist or tend to be dubbed capitalist? And I was thinking, well, there must be some reason for this, some reason why a certain group of people called socialists seem to believe, or so it appears, in my mind, I'm open for interpretation, to feel like the wealth pours out the sky and it's their business just to distribute it. And actually, that sounds bizarre. It's certainly I can imagine surviving because no one's creating anything. But then I had a thought to myself. I thought to myself, it'd be lovely to have an audience. But I also thought to myself, if you imagine the role of the female, as it always was, because they were pregnant all the time, in the cave, needing to be supported by people with the more logical men outside the cave, then one thing they need is security, comfort, freedom to practice their domestic duties and to invest in the future generations, which many of them be boys protecting themselves.
You agree then this is particularly scary, innit? No? Right, yeah. No, I really would like to do something on the Trinity, but that might be a little bit long and academic. Do you think that would hog it? Yeah, you know what?
Check, check. 1 2 1 2 check. Yeah.
Okay, yeah. Right, you just tell me when and. Yeah. Good morning, everybody. From Speaker's Corner, content over everything. The channel, the Speaker's Corner channel now. Just something to share with you on this beautiful day here today, and it's a bit gloomy, really. Now, see this picture here. We have a drag queen who is currently being paid by the education department to explain and to bring out the ideas of transgenderism, LGBT, genderqueer, trigender, all of these things to children as young as 2. Now, if you look at the face of this person, this is a man here dressed as a woman, a drag queen. Now, the kind of people who are drawn to being drag queens are hugely popular with young children. They're a bit like the pantomime dames from the Christmas pantomimes and things like that. Now, this man is now going into schools and he's explaining things like gender fluidity to 2-year-olds. And he's a drag queen. There's a man there and he's working for the education department. Now, the justification for this is that if they can reach young minds before young minds are able to have a concrete understanding of anything, so what's right, what's wrong, what's good, what's bad, what's real and what's unreal, they feel if they can fill their heads with ideas of gender fluidity, transgenderism and the whole other isms that you've got, that somehow they're going to help cure hate crimes. This is at the heart of the agenda. Now, a KGB officer just after the Cold War explained how it only takes 2 generations to wipe away the memory of a civilization. Now, this is effectively one of the commandos, the spearheading thrusts to totally erase in this child's mind at an early age what reality is. Now, I don't know how this young mind is going to cope when they get to 8, 9, 10, when every thought that's in their head as to whether they're in the right body, what bodies they can be born into, and a whole host of other things. Effectively, this is a dysphoria transfusion. Dysphoria is being put into this young child's mind, and after that egg has hatched, and I've said that before, that child will question everything to do with reality. And when this slate is clean, any state, any power, any propaganda machine will then be able to implant reality into that head. This head now has been softened up, white, basically called bleached, so it will accept anything. If they say, well, we want, and it's a bit like Brave New World, if they want a batch of this or a batch of that or a batch of anything, they will actually be able to put into that child's mind. And with the trans species, the wolf, the trans-species wolf children running around in the playground, and what couldn't they do? So I know again that I seem to be bashing on the transgender thing, but it's not about transgenderism, it's about children. It's about, for me, childhood, that period before we wake up is so precious, and so many people who have had their childhood robbed of them spend the whole of their life empty, grey and sick. So
What schools actually accepted this?
Oh no, lots of schools now. This is the start of a program where the drag queens will be in, probably this will be mainstream now. And I don't know if you're aware, Leon.
What do you base that claim upon?
But this is an article from the Daily Mail. And all you need to do is Google it. Don't take my word for it. If you just Google drag queens, primary schools, all the information is there. All the information. So, yeah, again, this isn't about transgenderism. This isn't about LGBT. This is about children, their right to have a childhood. So, I don't know, parents, if you're watching this, if you've got a heart and you want to protect your children, all I can do is say homeschool. Homeschool until this blows over, if it does. So, Leon, thanks for that. Have a good day.
Bring that picture closer.
Yeah, here we go. Now you can see this is the LGBT gender fluid commando raid on I suppose they'd consider it a hatchery. So this man now is going to say to that little girl, you know, you can be anything you want to be. You could be a boy, you could be a girl, you could be both simultaneously actually. You could be a cat, you could be a rat, a mouse, you could be 12-year-olds, 2-year-old, whatever you want. There's no limit to what you can put in this mirror. Be who you are. And this is where what you will trumps reality. So heaven help us. Okay, yeah, nice one.
Oh, what, you want to do your Christianity one now?
You know, that'll be a long one.
I don't know, man. It's up to you. How
What you think? Have you ever considered these kind of things?
I do think people can be born in the wrong body, yes.
Okay, no, I'm really interested to hear. Yeah, tell me how you would know that you were born in the wrong body, and whether. What? Can I just come around here? So, have you heard of this book? Don't be.
Do you mind going on camera?
Sure.
Yeah. So see this picture here. Do you believe that, say, a 5-year-old boy could could actually be really a girl.
Yes.
How would a 5-year-old boy know he's trapped in the wrong body?
Well, I actually read an article about this in the, I forget what article it was in, but there's a gene in the body, and so they all start off, you all start off actually initially as, like all the body parts are all a girl. So men and women in the womb have a clitoris, and then it either turns into a, obviously a penis or a vagina, and
Conception start, your sex is determined at conception, XY, XX
yeah, so,
chromosome.
and then sometimes there are these genes that like misinterpret what is really.
Is this real science?
Yes, and I can't think of the genes right now. If I could, I would pull up my article, paper I wrote on it.
What you're saying is, just so I can understand you, you're saying there's biological evidence, scientific evidence that can say that you could actually be trapped in the wrong body.
Yes.
Is there any bodies that you can't be allowed to be trapped in? See, this person believed he was trapped in a man's body when he's actually a cat. Would you accept that this person could be a cat if they really believe?
If they really believe that, then yes. I have no say in what they can and can't be.
But would he be a cat? This is the thing. I suppose is this person in reality a cat, or is this a deluded man who wants to believe he's a cat and wants you to believe it? See, and that's why with this boy, he's prepubescent. Okay, he has no understanding of fixed gender is. He has absolutely no understanding of it. So how would he know? This is what I'm trying to understand. Could you explain to me, say this 5-year-old boy, would the idea that he could be trapped in a body have come from within him or without? I.e., because what I'm saying is the transgender phenomenon has grown and is an exponential rate. It's grown 5,000%. Now, the evidence seems to suggest it's a social contagion. Wherever you have Facebook groups, wherever you have certain teachers in certain schools, there are clusters that grow around these things. Now, for me, this child did not arrive at
with fucking market
the knowledge that he was trapped in a body. He had that concept put in him, and I was just explaining to Leon, would you be happy with drag queens going into kindergarten and telling children as young as 3 that they could be trapped in the wrong body? Because for me, that's putting dysphoria into somebody's mind. And once that goes in, they'll never stop questioning. They'll always be unhappy, and they'll always. This is why the suicide rates are so high. So what I'm trying to get, did you always believe that people, could you be born in the wrong body?
I mean, I know for a fact that I wasn't, because I feel like a woman, and that identifies with my body. But it's like what you said before. He's 5. He's prepubescent. He's never heard of any like gender fluidity. He's never known the spectrum. So if he is identified as a boy at birth,
not identified, he is biologically a boy.
Right, so if he, so biologically he has the parts of a boy, but he has never heard of any of the gender spectrum, transgender, anything. He's born, he has the male gender parts, and his parents raised him as a boy, and he, since you said he's never heard of any of these things before, and he thinks, I think I'm a girl, then he must. If he came up with that on his own.
I agree with everything you said right up to that last bit. So the last part you said, so he's a boy, he's genetically a boy, his chromosomes are male, biologically everything about him is male, and then the thought comes into his mind that he might not be a boy and he could be a girl. But that's a boy having a thought. that he might be a girl. That doesn't mean he is a girl.
Right, but if he's raised in the sense that he is a boy and there's no other intention that he could be a girl, and he comes up with that in his mind, he's like, I don't feel right in my body, I don't feel comfortable. Maybe if because there are some boys who start dressing as a girl and they feel more comfortable in girl clothes, and they feel more comfortable going by she, her. So that's maybe that's why. Yeah.
If tomorrow I wake up and I say I'm a unicorn, yeah, would you believe me? I'm a unicorn.
I think you're going to a different point though, because it's different than that. It's not
saying. Give an example. If in reality, when a male and a female born, we know it's about accepting reality. We know why we call them children. Do you know that? Because they cannot make decisions. Because they don't have the knowledge. They haven't grown up. If we could live as a human species in a natural way, when our children born, we should send them to the jungle, let them learn the way the nature tells them. But no, we know we are human beings. In reality, we build civilization, we learn from our mistakes. So in reality, we teach each other what is a male, what is a female. In reality, it exists. But if tomorrow, as a deluded person, I wake up and say, do you know what, just to make me happy, if I say I'm a unicorn and you say, yeah, to make him happy, you're a unicorn, you just accepted my delusion.
But you're going to a different point.
No, it's not.
I think
It's not. You cannot.
But becoming a woman to a male or a male to a female is completely different from being a human to an animal or to a unicorn. Right, but there are.
Or a woman
it is
lives
genetically
his life or her life. Suddenly tomorrow he wakes up and he tells us that he feels that he is a woman or she's a man. And the society is so much afraid to say, no, bro, you're deluded.
Mo, could I ask you a straw poll?
To say the reality.
Can I just ask
to
people
say the
here, because
truth.
there's quite a few here.
I know it hurts.
Okay.
No, but it's different
many
because
people
it's
believe
genetic.
you can be born?
It is in the
Mo, can I
genetics.
just ask people here?
There are many
How many
articles
people
about this
here-
that are genetic, and it happens through
I
genes.
appreciate you
Genes-
coming over to have
gene-
a conversation. I really do.
But would you let me explain
I thought you
myself?
were talking here.
Your turn.
Well,
I
if
just
there
want
are
to
all
do a
people
poll
around
and then I'll
listening
come
to,
straight back to you. Straight back to you. This lady's got the chair. I just wanted to know how many people believe you could be born in the wrong body. Don't be shy.
Oh yeah, some of my best friends are transgender.
I don't believe it at all.
No. So there's I'd say there's a good third of people here. So yeah, please have your say.
there are actual scientific evidence that genes in your body can misinterpret what is actually happening, and then okay, you can read the article yourself if you don't believe it, but I don't.
To me, it sounds like pseudoscience. It really doesn't sound like.
Hormones determine at birth what you are.
But
Can't change that.
There are misinterpretations. Genes
In a
cannot.
hormone?
Yes.
Can a male feel what is the pain
if you would like
of
me to give you
menstruation?
the article
Can
that I
a man
read, I
ever-
can gladly give it to
If
you.
a man
I
tomorrow
think
says
it's
I'm a
National
woman,
History.
can he feel the pain of birth?
You have Mo.
How can he say I'm a woman or I'm a
Could
man?
you have your 1 minute? Please just carry on.
Accept the
You're saying
reality.
that there is scientific evidence that has recently come out that says that there are boys who have a condition that means that their genes are being misread. Well, how does that account for gender fluidity then? How can, because I'm bigender, okay, that means that I can manifest as a male and a female simultaneously. Sometimes I choose to present as a woman, sometimes as a man. Okay,
And
so
do you believe this then? I want to ask
no.
you, do you believe
As
that
a
a man
bigender
can be...
woman, right? I feel this is very important when we're dealing with children. Okay, so what I am myself is immaterial.
What you are as a material?
Yeah, to the subject of 5-year-olds being. So you agree I'm a woman, don't you?
Individual.
If you identify as that, then I believe that you identify as that, yes.
I'm as female as
Simple logic.
as her. Presuming you're female, yeah? You're female.
I am a female.
You're 100%.
Yes.
You know that for sure.
Yes.
And I'm as female as her, yeah?
If that's what you want to be, if that's what you physically, if that is what you mentally feel in your body, then
Who agrees I'm as female as her? Does anybody agree that I'm as female as her? You are suffering from this condition. You'll find it in the Oxford Dictionary. It's called deluded. It means believing in something that is not true. And we just had a little study here and we just showed it up. What happened to you?
I think the
you
physical,
well. I mean,
if you are not
as a mother of
physically a
children,
woman, it doesn't mean that you are you mentally have the things women have. It doesn't mean that you do not mentally feel as a woman.
What
but it doesn't mean
to you? You know, it's crude gender stereotypes.
the exact same thing it means to be a man.
What they judge it at the moment, they will put a child.
I'll ask you that right now. What do you think it means to be a man? What do you think it means to be a man?
To be a man?
Yes.
To be a man, there you go. I mean,
in
reality.
Does the physical matter?
In reality.
The physical appearance doesn't matter. It's the mentality.
No,
it's
we
what
live
you...
in real world. It does matter. It does. We can touch, we can feel it.
This is a woman as well. This is a transgender woman activist. So this is a woman
we grow
too.
differently.
And you are deluded.
Yes,
our body is different. So am I deluded or are you deluded?
You are deluded.
I'm deluded.
Yes.
I say this is a hairy man with a penis and testicles. You say it's a woman.
You
and
can't
I'm deluded.
assume. You have to ask
I know this is a
him or
fact.
her personally. Are you a man or who do you identify as? And as they tell you, you accept them as who they identify. Your mind is just so small. You can't accept.
You can say to him, you can call yourself whatever you want, but it's moved beyond that. It means that people like this, see, this is where it's dangerous. This is a twice convicted rapist who decided while he was in British prison that he would transition to a woman. Guess what they did? People you with your mindset, and I don't mean it angrily, but I've got 5 daughters, so I have a dog in the fight here. They put him, because he put a wig on, in a woman's prison, and guess what? He sexually assaulted 2 women while he was there. This politically correct ideology that you're carrying is putting women in serious danger. Women who fought for 50 years for safe spaces are having the doors opened, and animals like this.
So I just want to make sure I understand what you're saying.
Yeah,
so
please.
you're saying that a man becoming a woman or a woman becoming a man is dangerous for women.
It will become increasingly
How is that?
so.
I'm just wondering, how is that dangerous for women?
They
Because
say they are women
women
100%,
women
but they
and
have
men
nothing
can both.
to do with women. Okay. They cannot get pregnant. In reality, women have...
I think Mo's hijacking your conversation, mate.
No, because it's real. It's real. It's real. The thing is,
It's
I'm
not
not
all
saying...
physical. It's not
I
all.
think we'll carry it on.
My point is here that as a society, I have to have the right to tell this is wrong, because they want to shove their ideology in our throat that we don't want to accept.
Mo, can I carry this
You are
on
telling
now,
me
with this?
if a person gets up in the morning and says, "I'm a woman," I have to accept it. No,
But this
I
is
don't
against,
have
this
to.
is against freedom of. This is against being.
What about my
being.
freedom? What about my expression?
Go, Mo.
That is a different topic.
No, it's linked. It's linked.
What?
Because the moment I say this man cannot be a woman, you accuse me of every nasty thing.
Because you're not allowing them to
approach the
mentally
conversation
be
from another
themselves.
angle. Because from
Would
this
you
angle,
like to
it won't
carry
do
on the
any good.
conversation with Mo? Yeah. Okay.
Guys,
Because there's a few more people come here. Because I'm interested
Let's
to
approach
see
the
how this is.
conversation on a different
No.
angle.
And we'll just continue it as it is for now. Just for
Okay, continue and you will not get anyone.
Well, right. You mentioned that you feel that children can be born in the wrong body.
Yes.
Would you be? Yeah. No. God bless you. How do you feel about drag queens going into kindergartens and telling 3-year-olds that they could be born
You're
in the
appealing
wrong?
to morality. They do not share the same morality as you
I'm wondering.
do. They will not understand the example. You need to approach this from a different angle.
I don't know. This is the way that I'm doing it, if that's all right.
Okay, no, but they will. We will
Well,
do
I'll ask.
anyway.
No. You don't know. I'm trying to understand. It's not. We're not
I agree
going
with
to
you.
anywhere.
I spoke to you before.
I know,
I agree
you're
with
a
you.
good man.
But this is not the way to approach, an exit to this conversation. Now, let's approach this
I'm
from a
more
different
interested.
angle.
No. I'm more interested to get feedback from the people who are here. This is most important to me. That's more than anything. This isn't by numbers we get to an end result where we're all in agreement. I'm interested how young people, especially mums and dads and the rest of it, how they reconcile these things that I'm showing them. you young ladies here, do you agree? Because we have 3 people here who agree, and I'm not going to come down heavy on anyone. Do you believe that you could be born in the wrong body? You do, definitely. And what I'm trying to understand is, what must this boy feel when he doesn't even know what it is to feel male or female, beyond crude gender stereotypes? Typically, you will leave a Barbie dress and you might leave some camo trousers if you're bringing your child up in a gender-neutral environment. And if the child goes towards the Barbie dress, maybe you think, well, maybe I'll say, would you like to try it on? And then you will slowly coax the child, assuming this is their appetite and this is the way that they're leaning. But this child doesn't know. Those things that you're showing them are crude gender stereotypes. I have my youngest daughter, she goes to judo, she wears jeans, she wears a baseball cap, she doesn't conform to these pink Barbie dress, nail kind of things that young boys are being coaxed into saying, I better go and see a professional because you could be
Well, it's
a
not that we're
transgender."
saying boys can't play with Barbies and girls can't play with baseball bats. That's not what we're saying. What we're saying is, yeah, maybe the boy does go for the Barbie, but you can't, yes, you can't decide that right on the fact, oh, they must be a girl because they like a Barbie, because they're not going with the stereotypical genders, which is, that's not what we're saying. What we're saying is they, as time goes on, they develop the feeling, I don't feel comfortable in my body as a man.
And this is the dysphoria.
Let me try and see how I feel being more feminine,
My daughter,
stereotypically feminine. And if they feel that is more comfortable, then they will
take
become
care. Sorry about
way.
that. I just really wanted to hear what these people were saying. Yeah.
And it's not
What I
the
still
gender
don't- what I
stereotypes.
still don't
That's not what we're
understand.
trying to say.
So, are you saying that this boy who thinks he's a girl is actually in reality a girl? In reality. As real as...
But what is real, sir?
Well, this is it.
What is real?
Biological
It's real to him. So this means that, this means that we should allow this person
Exactly.
to feel how...
Are you male or female?
I'm a female.
You're a female. You know that.
No, I'm a female.
No, but you could do. You feel you're a woman. Have you ever tried to explore your feelings and discover whether in fact you're actually a man? Have you ever tried?
No, I never even tried it. So, but it's
Maybe
me.
tonight you should
No, I
just
don't
dwell on
think
maybe
so.
you've been misgendered at birth.
I don't think so. I will. We are all different. So some people believe that they are born in a different body. Some are not. I am not a part of that community.
It's different from she knows she's a female. That's different than being confused and not knowing your gender. It's the same thing as deciding. It's similar to not unknowing if you are gay, straight, lesbian, bi, whatever.
Sure.
I had a questioning time whether if I was lesbian, if I was bi, if I was straight. I know I'm straight. I went through that time in my period.
You're a straight
I am a straight female.
You know that.
But I'm saying.
What do you base that knowledge on? How do you know?
You do.
You just know.
Yes,
So he
it's
just
not.
knows. He just knows.
Yeah.
You really
And maybe he'll go through a time.
Christmas. He just knows any rubbish that anyone puts in his head.
This is very different.
Yeah.
Why is
This
it
is
so
about
different?
his personal, internal feeling about himself. He does not imagine himself a Napoleon, so he doesn't go to psychiatric hospital. He just imagines himself.
Why
Not
is this phenomenon has only just come out and raised its head in the last 5-6 years? If you're saying for thousands of years, boys who were trapped in the wrong bodies suffered in silence.
Yes, because it was frowned upon. It was frowned upon about being gay. If you were gay back then, it was not allowed. But now it is being more
Let's
accepted.
say I accept what you're saying, but he might not be transgender, he might be gender fluid, he might be a boy and a girl simultaneously.
Yes, and that's what he can figure out. He can figure that out. That's why he's confused.
Can you explain how you can know your gender?
He will feel what he feels. It's all about feelings, not knowledge. And it is a tragedy as well, because
A tragedy is going on while we're
The reason why you don't
confused or
understand, have you ever
child.
been in
Shall I
that
say
state? Have you ever
feeling
been
He does not
confused like a
harm
boy or girl like
I
that?
think
Because if
all
you
of the
haven't,
evidence-
then that's why you don't
All of the
understand.
evidence is showing very, very clearly, sorry, this is a social contagion.
You should
And it has been manufactured almost exclusively through social media. And I'll just say that, I'll just say, I'll give you the stats. 5,000% increase in referrals to transgender clinics in the last last 5 years. And most of those can be traced to clusters of Facebook groups or certain teachers. You can show where the idea that dysphoria has been put into this person's mind by, unfortunately,
is your sexuality
good
important
people
for the
like
laws
you
of the society?
are putting. Do you know what
If you are
dysphoria
not harming
means?
anyone, this is your personal choice, your personal freedom.
Dysphoria. What does dysphoria mean?
Being uncomfortable in your own body. Body dysphoria.
So you can have body dysphoria, you can have a whole host of dysphoria. It's not actually a
based on
psychiatric
your
condition.
sexuality?
Dysphoria is I wake up
Why
every
would you
morning
judge
feeling
that?
dysphoric. You know,
It's
we all
race.
do.
I call it
But
sexual
how can
racism.
what
That's how
happened
the society
10 years
works.
ago? It used to be
No,
called
this is
sexual
how it
identity
shouldn't go.
disorder.
And
It was a
is
medical
tragedy
condition.
how
Yeah,
it
but
works.
so was
Okay,
the
5
sexuality.
years they changed the MSN to dysphoria, and now everybody's got it. It's almost like this is the
Procreation, that's
elixir of
another story.
happiness.
But
You
how
will be a
many-
happy
how many
person. You know what?
heterosexual
When this
couples
boy
don't have
is
children?
taken to a clinic
Nowadays.
at the age of 16,
Well,
where one
yeah,
mum
yeah.
took her son to a
No,
clinic in
if you talk
Thailand, he
about
has his
50,
testicles
I
and his
would
penis
specify.
removed. He has to wear a
Nowadays, there is,
dildo in the
a
hole
lot of people who
for the
don't
rest
have
of
any
his
children
life. He has
based
to
on
have
political,
hormones
economical
pumped into him
reasons.
permanently,
And
otherwise
so
hair
the-
starts to appear. And
European
you're saying
races,
he's happy?
dying out.
Maybe
He's
he is.
happy?
Yeah, if that's what he wants,
Okay, well,
or
I'm
she,
going to give you the
that's,
medical
then
evidence.
that's what it
Do
is.
you know what? 90% of gender questioning children. This was the old MSN, right? When it was sexual identity disorder. The clinicians would have a watch and wait response. He can say what he wants. He can do what he wants. Don't influence him. Leave him alone. 90% once they'd reached puberty would went straight into their biological sex position, no problems. As soon as you interfere, the suicide rates shoot up. Do you not understand that this kind of conversation we're having and the kind of things that are going on is putting mental illness into a child who would have not had it if good meaning people like you could be guilty
what kind of interactions are they having though? Are people like when they are in their period of waiting and like leaving them alone to see how it goes and people interfere with that? What kind of interactions are those? Are those negative? Like, oh no, if you are thinking about being a woman, you can't do that. That's so bad, you'll be hated.
Do you think
no,
my daughter's transgender because she wears a baseball cap and jeans?
I don't want to talk about your daughter. I just want to.
Could she be?
If that's what she wants to be,
And would you
then
base
she
that on
can
the
be
fact
that.
she wears jeans, goes to judo and has a baseball cap?
I would not
But
assume
you would
her
if the
gender
boy likes
whatsoever.
Barbie dress. See,
no,
this is what I don't
you
understand.
wouldn't. Did I say that?
If you
I
were a
said
parent-
it doesn't matter if a boy picks up a Barbie. It doesn't mean he's a girl. It means he likes playing with Barbies. If a girl wears a baseball cap, like your daughter, then she likes baseball.
Maybe there. Don't you understand?
It doesn't mean that they are a girl or boy. That just means their likes. It doesn't mean who they feel inside.
If God blesses you with children, are you going to bring them up gender neutral?
Can you repeat that? I'm sorry.
If God blesses you with children, and I hope He does, and I hope you get married and have a great big family, I really do. I hope and pray that you do. If you are blessed like that, will you have a gender neutral bedroom, and you will have, let's say it's a boy, let's say God blesses you with a lovely son who you love to death. You know, you would do anything for him. Are you going to put some knickers and a Barbie dress on his bed, and then you're going to put some camo trousers on the other? Why not? Because that's what you should do, because how does he know what he is unless you do that? And this is what's happening. And put yourself in that position.
In the beginning, we teach our children.
But that's when stereotypes come in. That's when.
What exactly
if you had a
reality.
No,
if
sorry.
you had a child,
Yes, why not?
you would put a pair of girls' knickers in your son's room and say, if you like pink knickers,
No,
put them on.
it's not about underwear. What exactly are you not getting?
If you were to bring up your child as gender neutral, it would include underwear. Very much, it would include underwear, dresses, the whole.
Why don't you just give them white underwear?
Yeah.
I wear white underwear. Do you wear white underwear?
What would they be?
No, I wear black.
Then I wear black too.
Sometimes
I have black, white, red. There you go. He wears purple underwear.
Let's cut
Yeah, there you
underwear.
go.
Let's cut underwear. Underwear is not the problem.
Okay.
Exactly.
But would you put a little pink dress and some nail varnish polish and makeup in your
look at my
5-year-old
nails.
son's
You
room?
have to do that.
Would you do that?
Much better than
No, I wouldn't.
Well, how do you have a
also
gender
not
neutral?
For if I had a
No,
girl as a child, I also wouldn't put it in pink
Well,
stuff.
how
No,
do
but
you bring
listen
up
to
a
his
child
question.
gender neutral? Yeah, if you were going to bring up your child gender neutral, what they do, they put both there. And if the child, imagine this 5-year-old boy, he goes, he likes pink, they go, gotcha. We're going
I know.
to. That's the way it works. So there are so many parents who are so enamoured with the whole transgender pop star idea. They're desperate to,
But see,
to
that's
get
where
transgender kids.
we need education. That's where we need education, and we need to educate people. This is how you bring up your child. if like.
You know what?
You need education. You can't. This is where you are getting it wrong.
What should I say to my child?
But can I please finish my comment, please? Okay. So
Educate me.
the reason why education needs to be involved is because since this is a new upcoming thing for a while, people don't
But
know.
it's been around forever.
But it was pushed down and people were not talking about it for a while.
It was unknown.
Because people were not talking about it because
There
it was
nothing
such
to
a
talk about because it was unknown.
That's why I'm saying because of how new it is,
You
there needs to be
created it.
there needs to be education
It's a modern
on how to
creation.
grow and how to lift up your child.
No, I don't agree.
In this sense, not
I think
saying
there should be propaganda.
because you
Yeah, go on.
There should be propaganda, not education. Propaganda is better.
yeah, because if you have you can't have a pink.
You know, can we cut to the quick?
He's right.
So you're saying that
Yeah,
you
but
could be
get-
born.
try
You
to
could be.
process
Let's
what
just
he's
say.
saying.
Let's say I agree with you. I agree with you.
No.
Is there any
Today's
limit to
society
what
is
you can be
propaganda.
in this
He's
mirror?
trying to say
Could you be?
there is no
Do
knowledge
you
in
agree
today's
that you could
society.
be
It's all
trans-
headline.
knowledge.
Headline
There
reading.
is the
Mo,
problem,
could I
there
could I
is
just ask
knowledge.
these girls this? Do you agree then that this is? Have you heard of trans species?
Yes.
Okay.
Oh, yes.
Yeah. Okay. Is this a cat or a poor insane person who thinks he's a cat?
I mean,
Is
you know,
it you?
I don't
Tell
care
me
if
what
this
your
person
heart.
is-
Tell me what your heart
If this
tells
person is happy, then honestly,
So if he
everyone
said,
can-
I'm a cat, you would
But
go,
it
yes,
doesn't
you
bother
are.
me.
Yeah, but would you say he was?
it doesn't affect
But
me
would
in
you say
any
he
way.
was?
Yeah,
Would
I
you say,
don't
I'm
care.
asking it, would
So
you
you
say he
Exactly.
was?
How come you are saying
Humanity is not
Would you
about
say
selfishness,
to this
remember.
this poor
Humanity
man
is to give your
who
hand to
then
another
became a
human being.
woman and then became a
When
cat,
they
that he has
are
actually a cat?
in a
would you say he
situation that
was?
you can
I
help them
would
and tell
say,
them about
be whatever
reality.
you are.
I
That's
agree.
what
And he says, I'm a
humanity
cat. Do you agree? You
is. I'm not a cat.
Be a cat.
It's some guy who
Yeah.
thinks
You know
he's a
why you
cat.
because
didn't
it
want to
doesn't
say it.
affect
Why
her
don't
life.
you
How
accept
come?
that?
I think I'm a gorilla.
That there are
Well,
weak
how
people in
come
this world.
says?
That
How
there
come
are
you're
weak
saying that
people in
this is
this
wrong
world.
when it's not even
You have
affecting
to
your life?
admit
No,
that's
this is
it.
a typical response.
The reality.
It's
How
affecting
come
the generations'
but how
lives to
come
come.
you are
You deny
saying
reality,
this is wrong?
you
But
say,
is
yes,
that
okay,
affecting
it's
your
okay.
It's
life?
Be a
affecting
bit more
society,
quiet,
the
please.
health of society.
Be a
This
cat.
is
But
why
does
we
that-
all have a responsibility. Do you agree? Do we all
Meow.
agree? Just because you don't
Just
have
be
I do have a
quiet,
dog in the
you
fight.
know?
I've got five
I know
dogs, so I
you
do.
do.
This is their future.
I know.
What I'm trying to say is, if you say,
Yeah.
because do you agree I'm a man or a woman?
What do you identify as? You tell
Right
me.
now I'm a woman again.
Okay, then you are.
Okay, right. Do you agree I'm a woman?
If you say
I'm
so,
bigender.
honestly,
Have you heard of bigender?
Yes, I do.
So I'm a woman, yes.
Be
I'm a
whatever
woman,
you are.
yes.
Yes.
Please don't, that hurts.
Ask me that.
You hesitate. and
Ask
that
me
hurts.
that.
Yeah, I did. I really didn't
I might just,
hesitate.
you know,
I really didn't hesitate.
Okay. Is this? Now you can't see this person's face, so you don't know whether he's male or female,
Yeah.
do you?
Yeah,
You
so
haven't a
I can
clue.
say they
Right,
to
so
them.
Should we ask the mystery guest whether he's a man or a woman? Hang on,
But
guess.
why does
Who
it
thinks This is a
matter?
man and who thinks this is a woman? This is
Why
a
it
man.
shouldn't?
Hands up, he's a man.
Why
Anyone
does
think-
it though?
no
That's
one
the
thinks he's a
question.
man.
Because we live in a real world.
Yeah, and being that is part of the real world. It's accepting of mental. Do you
What
believe in
exactly
mental
is your
illnesses?
problem? Does it
My
bother
Okay,
you
then you should be able to believe that people are able to mentally believe them that they are a different gender than how they are physically.
But if I accepted their ill mentality,
But that's not ill mentality. That's just the way that they're thinking. I'm not saying that's a mental illness.
How are they not true? They're real people. How are they supposed to not be true? But why wouldn't they? If I say I'm depressed right now, how would you know?
tell them. Is this a woman? You mean?
That is,
I don't
that
know.
is not
I have
exact-
never
that is
met
not
this
at all what I
person.
said.
Yes.
No, it's
You
not.
can
If a
see
man
it's
tells
not a
me
woman.
she's a woman, he's a
How am I
woman,
supposed to know?
I should say
If I
it's
grow a
okay.
beard,
No,
am I a
that's
man?
No.
No, you're not. You're a man.
No,
That's
honestly, why
that
does
is
it bother you?
horrible. That
I don't mind
is because
asking.
that is not
No, but like,
accepting
why
of
would
who
I
they
be
are. That's not
bothered by
accepting of
people
who they
are
want to
unhappy
be and who
and
they
want to be happy?
mentally think
Why
they
should
are.
I be bothered
And you
by
are
that?
supposed to,
Why
a
are they so
human
happy
is
that
supposed to
they're
accept
40% like
another
you?
person for who they are and who they believe they are.
But then
I don't
You
know,
are not.
I've never
You are
seen
not.
that study.
That is
I would
rude
like to see
and
that.
very
Okay,
disgraceful
but
and
do you have any
disrespectful
sources?
to
I would
tell
like to see the
someone.
source.
Nope, that is
I'll
not
ask
how
you,
you are.
I'll
That
ask
is not
you.
how you're supposed to believe. That's not what you're
No,
supposed to
slip
be.
this one in
Let
with
them
our
be
guest
what they
here.
want to be. You're not supposed to tell them how they're supposed to be.
Let them be what they want to be. What do you mean by that?
If they want to be a woman, then let them
cat,
be, or a cat,
or a
or
dog.
whatever they want to be. You let them be that. You don't tell them. It is not your place at all to say, nope, you're a man.
Yeah.
You're not a cat. You're a man. No, it is not.
Why?
Do you know mental illness? Have you heard of mental illness? Have you heard of mental illness?
I
Can I
have.
just say
Regulations and
no,
prohibition.
Let me get this one.
I told
That
you
does
we
not-
cannot live like that. Society
Then you can
doesn't work
start
like
your own
that.
country and go make that your own rule. Because
mentally-
none of us, as far as I know,
thought it's a
we
free
won't be
society.
living there.
I thought it's a free society.
Then you say what you want
Can
to
I
say,
ask
but
you
let
something?
people be
Have
who
you-
they want to
have
be.
you-
Because
No,
then your
I am that
society
thing.
will
No, you're
go.
not.
Don't
No,
shove
you're
it down my
not.
throat and say, oh,
You're
you have to
saying
accept
you're
it.
saying it's wrong to if you're if
I cannot. No.
what you've been saying this whole time is if I identify as a man, I am a man. You're telling me that nope, you're a woman.
Okay,
You are a woman.
See, then that is not accepting.
That is shoving it down.
You are
your-
yes.
That's
I'm a
not
woman.
accepting reality if I
Yes,
say,
I
oh
know.
no, you're a man. Everybody knows you're a
But
woman
if I was
here.
a man, there would be nothing wrong with that either.
Can I grab the reins? Can I just grab the reins again? Sorry,
Maybe I am.
sorry, I shouldn't have even touched it. Can I just grab the reins again? We were talking about mental illness. Generally speaking, when someone presents themselves in a psychotic state, you don't agree with everything they say because you will reinforce the mental illness. You don't cure it, and this is exactly what you're doing, and this is why it's so dangerous. You say, what's it to do with me? I've got children. Thank God I homeschooled every single one, and they don't have to go through this mind-mending cult that you
I
lot
feel
seem
bad for
happy
your
with.
children.
No.
Mending who?
Have I the right to withdraw my children from a program that tells them they can be born in the wrong body? You said, how does it affect me? You know, let them do it. If they're my children...
No, I'm saying, how does it affect you if I'm just saying, if I identify as a man, that's sexist. If I am a man, if I say I'm a man, and you say that's wrong, how am I affecting your life? I don't live here, I live in America. And I'm just saying...
Let me tell you how.
No. Your mindset means that my children are going to be exposed to animals like this.
But you homeschooled them, so you restricted them from that.
No, I protect
Right now.
I protect it.
You want...
I have to leave, but thank you for the
me to
conversation.
tell my children a lie. When a man becomes a woman and my child should ask, I should say, no. Don't say anything because it's going to hurt her. She's a woman. No, I'm going to say, no, my son or my daughter, he's a man. He's deluded. I will tell her that, or I will tell him that.
No, but
the
if
reality.
you were, forced to defend one of the points.
But you want me to tell my son or my child.
I was all over the place until God found me. I would have agreed with every
But
single
see,
thing you
it
said.
just means that
my kids.
yeah,
What I
exactly.
Are you a believer?
Or what they should
It
do.
just, he created a man and he created a woman, but it doesn't mean that they have to be who they are. It just means those are the two people who he created.
That's why we're
Exactly, so that's why...
Imagine if I come and go,
God made Hitler. That was
Exactly, he did make Hitler. That is...
He doesn't make them mistake. No, he doesn't.
that's how we communicate.
I also knew exactly what I'm going to do and you're going to do, and we're all living in this kind of...
Well, she has a point. God made everyone with free will, right? So that means I have the free will to become a man if I want to, and that's not a mistake.
Okay, see, this is what we might have something. We might be agreeing on this. I don't. When I say I don't care, if you say this person says they're a woman, well, I can call anyone. You can giraffe. Look at all the giraffes and wildebeest all running around there, and you can say, yeah, he believes that he's completely crazy. But if you say, well, if he wants them to be giraffe and wildebeest, they are giraffe and wildebeest. That's crazy. It's delusion.
You don't need to exaggerate.
But that's
Well,
different.
you do some people with
Religious people, we just allow them to believe in whatever they want, even though there is no proof of it.
I think what I can
Exactly the same point.
prove is,
Look, I don't agree with them, but I'm going to actually argue with you.
Name me a human civilization that's never
I would
believed in
just
any
like
creator.
to, I would just like
Never
to
believed
leave
in a
you guys
creator.
with an article of national history.
Religion is
on the issue. You take it.
Okay. I'll take over them. I'll take over them.
There he comes. You already at
think
saturation levels on the C.O.E. He's already at saturation levels.
What level?
If two
Saturation
others,
levels.
Saturation
Yeah,
level.
we've seen.
and a
No, but
son,
you're good.
they're
Thank you,
they're
thank
not
you.
harming each
So
other.
okay, just to make sure, I don't actually agree with the
not-
this shit away
they
from the
haven't
children. That's all I
put-
have. Piss off, bro. Piss
Do
off.
not bring
Piss off.
any child.
Leave the
Is
kids
it okay
alone.
so they can have sex?
Okay, man. So I'm not going to argue for the transgender, but I think your point.
This is the society you're raising. They are agreeing that a mother and a son should have a sex.
Did you say that?
Yes. Yeah, what's wrong with incest?
What? She said, what is wrong with it?
What's wrong with incest?
Did you say that?
You're allowed an opinion. Come here,
What happened? What happened?
It's Hyde Park.
Fine, don't worry. I'll protect you. I'll protect you. Don't worry. What did you say?
You're allowed to say whatever you want.
This guy's a troll. This guy's a troll.
You're allowed to say whatever you
What
want.
happened? What happened?
No, he asked me if, like, a brother and a sister use contraception, if it would be okay for them to
Okay, and you said yes?
And I said, like, why should I care?
Why should you care?
Yeah.
Because if wait, guys, calm down. You know, civil. Let's have a civil conversation here. Okay. I don't think it's good to do to have sex between a mother and a child. No, but look, it's your opinion, but you have to have reasons for your opinion. Because if an opinion doesn't have any reason, then it's a bad opinion.
Okay.
You know, the flat earth theorists. Imagine that we just allow them to do whatever they want and never confront them in their bullshit. They will just, you know...
Brother and sister should have
No, of course not. But, huh?
Why? Because you don't believe in any moral absolutes.
Yeah, I don't.
Why should
because
her
it's not
opinion be
functional. It's not functional.
Well, once
It's
you
not
use
functional in a
contraception,
society.
Contraception
It's still not functional. Still not functional. What do I mean by functional? Okay, will you allow me to speak or will you interrupt me?
You know,
Okay,
maybe
I will.
it's not my opinion. Maybe I think, like, oh, well, that's not good.
Well,
but
if you think, then it's your opinion.
yeah, sure. But also, I can say, like, I think it's bad, but if they want to do it, why shouldn't they?
So if you had a son
What if I
and daughter,
told you
you'd
that
let
you
them have
shouldn't
sex
think
upstairs
that
in
way?
your house?
This discussion is
Is that what you mean?
Really, that has anything to do with that.
Sorry?
No, but you
the
would.
topic you talked about.
Okay, come here. It's
It's
a bit difficult to be turning.
Yeah, no, I tell you what, let Pavlov have a tag. I mean,
Okay, thank you very much. Thank you very much. I do appreciate it. I'll go to this side then. Thank you. I'm patient. Yeah, I'm patient. Okay, so what's the deal? What did he ask you that you answered yes? About the incest.
Yeah, he asked me if it would be okay for a brother and a woman to have sex. A brother and a sister. If they use contraception.
Okay, and you think it's okay?
No, I said that's not about me. That's the point. It's not about me.
Yes,
it's
it is
about
about
them. No, why? No.
Yes, it is.
Why do I have to
Because
do
we live in a
that?
society, and thus we need to choose certain norms to obey.
Okay.
We need
Do you
to
think so?
listen. In a society, when we have, I think morality is subjective.
Yeah, sure.
But in a society, we need to choose at least similar moral rules, a similar moral code. Because if we choose different moral rules, one person can go ahead and rape someone, and he can get away with it because we'll just, it's his
But
opinion.
that's what harming other people. So that's
Oh, so it's only bad when it's directly harming another person.
yeah. Well,
No.
No, so
Okay, wait. Let us think about it. You know, you're having a lot of opinions.
Take your time.
Yes, thank you so much. So you're talking about Kant, basically.
Sorry, could you speak louder?
You're talking about Kant, basically. Everyone should have about
Still
the same...
can't hear you, sorry.
Kant. You know Kant.
Who?
Kant.
Kant, the philosopher.
Yes.
Okay.
So you're having his opinion, basically, that everyone should have a very similar state.
More or less.
Okay.
I don't quite follow Kant all that religiously, but I do follow some things he said.
Okay. So, okay, speaking about religion, we talked about religion earlier. Every religion...
About religion?
Yes. Maybe you should put your head from your ears. Maybe you can...
Yeah, but it's a bit cold here. You know, I don't have a lot of hair at this point. Kind of had to shave up. The revelation.
What is this for, even?
Huh?
What is this for?
Oh, this is just one of the channels that comes to Speaker's Corner. They film some discussions here and all that stuff. But don't worry, this is one of the more impartial channels. They just put whatever people say. They don't cut out certain parts. So if I mess up in the conversation, if I make a mistake and you prove me wrong, they will not cut it out. So that's how it is. But yeah, don't worry, it's just a normal channel. They will not start talking trash about the people, even if they lose an argument. But let's come back to the incest, because we're kind of running away from it a little bit.
Yeah.
So do you think
we
it's
talked about transgender people?
transgender people? Okay, we can go to transgender people.
Because incest. Incest is not.
What do you think about transgender people?
I think they can do whatever they want if they're happy, and they can do whatever they want if they're happy.
If they're happy?
Yes.
So you think anybody can do whatever they want if they're happy with it, as long as it doesn't directly hurt other people?
I think so.
You think so?
Yes. Do you have an example?
I have many examples.
Okay, which would maybe.
I have many
okay,
examples.
Then go ahead.
All right. If I tell you that I am Donald Trump,
I know you're not.
how do you know that?
I mean, that's just ridiculous.
You're assuming that I'm not Donald Trump.
This is a ridiculous comparison.
Why is it ridiculous?
You're making it ridiculous. Please,
Why am I
we want
making
to have a proper conversation. If you're making ridiculous comparisons, that is not a proper conversation we're having. You're just trying to prove me wrong with bad examples. That is not discussing, that is just being ridiculous. We're talking about transgender people, we're not talking about you pretending to be Donald Trump. That is not reasonable.
Okay, so you think that me pretending to be a woman is more reasonable than me pretending to be Donald Trump?
Donald Trump is one specific person. A gender is something else. Have you ever heard of Behaviour?
Okay.
Beauvoir,
Sorry?
Beauvoir. Who? Beauvoir, Simone de Beauvoir.
Okay. So what does it have to do with this?
She.
She.
She distinguishes between...
Wait, is it actually a woman or a man, or they just identify as a woman?
She identifies as a woman, as far as I know.
Oh, so it's a man, but he identifies as a woman.
Please, let me have this. Okay, she distinguishes between the sex, which is the biological, I think, I'm not 100% sure right now. No, between gender. Gender is being what society makes of your gender. So, identifying as something or being something. And sex is biological, what you're born with. And if sex and gender, as of her definition, don't match up, then you can kind of identify as transgender.
Okay.
Yeah. So, if you're identifying as a woman and you're born with a penis, if you're born as a man, why should it matter? Why shouldn't you change it? Why shouldn't you be able to?
If I identify, let's say, as a black man, should people accept me as a black man?
Well, why would you identify as a black man?
Why would you identify as a woman?
This is not about the color of your skin. This is about gender. Why are you trying to make awful comparisons?
All right, it's not an awful comparison at all.
It is.
No, it's not. No, it's not. Being a black man and being white is just a little bit different because of some cosmetic changes.
Yes.
You know,
then just
there are a
change
few changes.
The color
it's
of
not
your
much.
Skin.
Yes. The shape of my face will change. The color of my skin will change, and depending on the region of Africa, the shape of my body might change because different subraces of blacks, just as different subraces of whites, have different body structures. Do you agree with that?
Have you? Yes. Okay. Yeah.
Okay. So. Why is it silly to compare my identification with a different race to compare my identification with a different gender? Why is it so silly? You know, a woman, you,
yes.
for example, are similar to me. You have the same hair color, I assume. Are you actually blonde or are you just...
I identified as a blonde woman, so I changed
you identify
the
as a
color of my
blonde
hair.
woman, fair enough. Okay, so you're a woman,
yes.
And that's it.
Yeah.
Other than that, we basically don't have a lot of different distinctions. Yes. So why is it so silly for me to identify as a black man?
I changed my opinion. Okay, if you identify as a black man, then go for it.
So it's fine. It's fine for me to identify as black.
Yeah.
Okay, good. So imagine Josh here. There's a guy standing here. His name is Josh. He is ugly. He has a really ugly face. But he identifies as beautiful. You know, he has this misplaced sense of self-worth.
Beauty is always in the eye of the beholder. So
good one. But listen.
Also a bad comparison. Come on, give me something. Give me something good.
Why is it a bad comparison?
Because we're talking about gender right now.
Okay, just because you call it a bad comparison doesn't mean it is a bad comparison. If you call it a bad comparison, give me a reason for it being a bad comparison.
Because we're talking directly about gender right now.
Yes. We're talking about change in the human body, about genetic changes, about body changes, genes, right? And a person who is ugly is slightly different from a person who is beautiful. You know what I mean? If he identifies as beautiful for some reason, will you just accept him as beautiful because he identifies as so?
I think talking about being ugly or being beautiful is really...
Yes, it is subjective. It is subjective. Yeah. But I'm going to a certain question that I'm going to lead you to. And depending on how you answer that question...
give me the question.
Let's imagine John here, another guy. He's really bad at math.
So long.
He's really bad at math.
Okay.
He's really bad at math. And he
Okay.
wants to be a math teacher.
Yeah.
You think he should be a math teacher?
If
Just because he thinks he
work
can.
towards it, yes. Everyone can
Yeah,
learn math.
Yeah, but listen.
Math is about
I'm not
logic.
saying if he works for it
Also
or
about
not. I'm saying he's just really, really bad at it.
Okay. How bad? Cool.
Like he keeps. You ask him how much is 1 + 1, and he tells you 10.
Okay, then you can learn 1 + 1 is 2.
Yes.
Being smart or learning new stuff is not the same as changing your gender. You can't make the comparison. I
Why
learned
can't
playing
I?
the piano, and before I was super bad. I couldn't play a C major scale, and now I can. I can play
You know, I
even more.
couldn't agree more. And that's the answer that I wanted to hear, actually. Because changing your intelligence is way easier than changing your sex. And if you
Yeah, 'cause
won't
human-
accept a person who's bad at math as good at math unless they change their ability in math, why would you accept a man who changes his sex to a woman?
You can't compare learning
Oh,
a
you
skill.
can't compare.
No,
Well,
you
why can't I compare them?
Because learning a skill is different from changing your gender.
Why so?
Okay, every human has to learn stuff. They're born as knowing, like they know nothing. Human is born knowing nothing, and they have to learn
More or
everything.
less, it's not exactly that way.
They're born knowing nothing.
No.
Almost nothing.
Exactly.
Okay, good.
Does a human know how to breathe
Yeah,
when
okay,
he is
come
born?
on.
Come on, it's about
See, it's not
about
nothing.
skill. It's about
No, but okay, if
knowledge.
you say nothing, you need to mean nothing. If you
We
say
were talking
nothing
about
and you don't
skill.
mean
Okay,
nothing.
okay, good.
About skills like maths.
Yeah, okay.
Okay.
Humans born with almost no skill, whatever.
Yeah.
So they can learn it. They have to adapt. Otherwise, they're not functional human for the society. If they can't talk, then they're either disabled or they can't communicate. So that you can't compare like learning stuff to changing your gender. I don't think that's a good comparison again. What is the point you're trying to make? Honestly, and
The
also,
point I'm trying to make is just because a person thinks he's something doesn't mean he actually is that something. And it doesn't mean everybody else should accept him as that something. That is the point that I'm going to make
Okay,
here.
then, okay, good. Finally, you have a point to make. Good.
Well, okay. Why do you disagree with that point?
Can you give it to me again?
Okay, let me give you the point again. Just because a person thinks he's something and he wants everybody to accept him as such, doesn't mean everybody should accept him as such.
Why?
Why?
Yes.
Well, because it's not beneficial to the society.
What to you is beneficial to society?
Now we're talking. What is beneficial to society is what is functional, is what makes society better, what makes humans coexist in a society, in a group. That's how humans evolved. With sharing knowledge, with supporting each other. One person might be real good at fighting, and another person is real good at building stuff.
Yes.
So in an ancient society, for example, the builder would build houses, while the fighter would, scare off the wild animals or scare off other tribes or whatever.
That's a
You
few
know what I mean?
thousand years ago.
Division,
Yes.
division of.
Yes. I know what you mean.
The word just jumped out of my head. Division of functions. Yeah. Nowadays, it's not. What's up, bro? Nowadays, it's not that.
I can't recognize you without your leather jacket.
Oh yeah. It's just here, man. It's just here.
Do you know him?
No, not really.
This guy is possibly one of the greatest thinkers of our lives.
You sweet talker, you.
No. Right? I'm talking bullshit, but this guy actually thinks. Everything that comes out of his mouth.
It's his opinion, yeah.
Anything that comes out of anyone's mouth is an opinion.
Yeah.
This man is way too gentle. He's too gentle.
But this guy actually.
He's too kind.
He thinks. He's rationalised stuff.
Yeah, in his world.
Yeah, who gives a shit? All we can do is say what we think from our world.
Yeah, but the thing is, if you're having a discussion, you can't be just in your world. I'm trying to understand him, he doesn't try to understand me.
Okay, but if someone is talking and then there's not, if there's like, okay.
Yeah, he has comparisons, I realised.
If you talk and all you're doing is vocalising thought vomit, right?
It's true.
Right? We all have thought vomit, like. Close your eyes for 5 seconds and shit pops into your head.
Yeah.
If you're just vocalising that, then that's nonsense, right?
Yeah.
But if you've got a break between that where you're like, I'm going to stop the thought vomit, and I want what I say to mean something, to be rational. This guy does it. And I've seen him a million times, and I wish he'd speak more here. I really do wish that.
I'll try my best.
No, I really do wish that, 'cause we're not all long on this planet.
Indeed.
And what we are going to do on this planet is going to be. But he's important. But he hasn't got his leather jacket on, so I didn't recognise him. If I've interrupted your conversations, I do apologise.
No, it's all right. It's all right.
I'm uncouth. Yeah.
Okay, let's just remember what we were talking about. We're talking about functionality in a society.
Yes.
What functions in a society, what doesn't.
Yeah.
Right? I think that's the way to go. That's the way that humans should evolve, that humans should adapt. Sorry, bro. Let the, just so they can see.
I don't want to be on camera.
See you, man.
No, I'm going to hang out.
You're going to stay here? Come here.
I'm interested.
All right. And I think that just trusting a person because of a whim is not functional. I don't think it's functional at all.
Okay.
Why do you think that trusting a person just because they have a whim to be something they're not is functional? Now, I'm telling this before you answer. I'm telling this in a perspective of a person who actually does know a number of transgenders. And I call them by the name that they choose to be called.
Okay. So
I don't actually keep calling, a transgender, a man who transitioned to a woman. I don't keep calling him a man, and I don't keep calling a woman who transitioned to a man a woman.
Do you
I don't
have
do
the
that.
feeling that that is intrusive to our society? To just
Intrusive? What do you mean by that?
You said you don't agree with the concept of transgender.
No, I didn't say that. It's not that I don't
So
agree
then
with the
what is
concept
your
of transgender.
problem?
I don't agree with normalizing it and encouraging it in people. I think that first of all, there should be
Do you
people
feel
should
this-
come to a considerable age
Yes, yeah, okay.
to
I get what you
even
mean.
think about that.
But
And having kids who want to transition and who want to be drag queens and who want to be this and want to be that, and every day they change genders, that's not functional.
Is that really happening, or are you just
It is happening.
exaggerating?
I personally think.
I have.
Yeah.
I'm talking. Have you ever seen a child who said, "Hey, I want to be a man, I want to be a woman," and change their opinion every day? Have you ever come across that?
No, I haven't personally
Yeah.
come
I have.
across
Okay.
a person like that. But just because you don't have personal experience with something doesn't mean that it doesn't exist.
Yeah, okay, but
I
have
never
you
had
ever
personal
heard of that?
Sorry?
Have you ever heard of that? Because I haven't.
Well, of course I have. It's everywhere. The man who was
everywhere?
talking, yes.
Okay.
I mean, it's not everywhere,
Because
but
I
it's
haven't
very
done
visible.
It. She hasn't done it.
Really?
None of my friends have
not
done
at
it.
all.
Right.
I don't
You
know
haven't,
anyone.
girl, sorry, but if you haven't seen it and you defend the current idea of transgenderism, I don't know why you're defending it at all. I mean,
No,
you didn't research it, you don't know about it.
No, it's
Why
not
are you
about the
defending
concept of transgender. It's about people who are you're claiming that these people exist. They are changing their minds every day. I don't think that's happening.
You don't think that's happening?
No, number one. Number two, how does it affect society?
Alright, so
Can I-
if
can
it
I-
is happening, you
Can I
think it
just make
doesn't
one
affect
point?
society?
Why are people speaking for other people that they don't represent, right? Because when you say
Because I care about other people.
no,
I care about
no.
society.
Because when you say
No, that's a good point.
Right,
You
right.
should care about other people.
Right, no.
Even
but
if she
people
doesn't represent
people
them.
are taking points of view
Yeah.
that are not necessarily. It's like a second-hand point of view. When
Yeah.
you say, "Does this happen?" Right? I come from the London courier community, right?
Okay.
And London couriers are a diverse bunch, right? So we've had in the last 10 years, girls who've become boys and boys who've become girls, right?
Okay.
And amongst the courier community, no one fucking gives a shit,
Yeah.
right? Because do you know why? They're still a person, right? I in my life cannot treat someone different than them being an individual, right?
Yeah.
Right? Whoever you are, you're an individual. Everyone here is an individual, right?
Yeah.
I don't know what philosopher who said there's like, I think therefore I am, right? Descartes, right? I think therefore I am. So what I do from that is like, that's the baseline of life.
Okay.
So I think therefore I am. So I do everyone. What would you say? I treat everyone as if they think therefore they are.
Okay, that's good.
They are.
Yeah. So whatever fucking crazy shit is going on in their head, it's like you think therefore you are.
Yeah.
Right?
That's good.
So like, if we then get to a point where you extrapolate it to a bigger society, then we have problems. But when you're talking about...
But Descartes' quote, I think, therefore I am, doesn't mean exactly what you're saying. It means that I exist.
Yeah, I know.
It doesn't mean I am what I think. Yes.
Because
if you think that's not it, you didn't study Descartes.
No. I can go back to this.
I think, therefore I am is a question of existence.
Yeah.
It's not a question of identity.
No. Breaks on.
It's a question of existence.
Yeah.
I think, therefore I am.
Between the I and the me. What is this?
Okay.
Who told you that?
I can argue this point forever. Basically, he was trying to find axioms that are true. He was trying to find an axiom that is true.
He was trying to find
an axiom
of his existence.
Yes, an axiom that is true.
He was trying to find one reality that he could follow.
All philosophers are trying to find an axiom that is absolutely true and they can build on beyond that, right?
Okay.
Like, you can think whatever the fuck. Everyone can think whatever the fuck they want to think. But where do you... What are the things that you can go, this is the bricks and mortar that I can build something on?
I'm not sure what you mean at this point, honestly.
Right. The most difficult thing, if you're going to really think about philosophy, what do you know is true?
We're leaving.
Well, the conversation kind of derailed a bit, so I don't blame you.
Sorry if I interrupted it.
But anyway, listen. Honestly, Descartes' quote, "I think, therefore I am," doesn't mean that he is what he thinks he is.
Yeah,
Nothing like that.
He is talking about existence, but he's also talking. And he's talking about
an axiom that you can
build. To distinguish between the I and the me, the person that is inside you and the person you are showing.
The person inside you and.
Like.
Sorry, seriously, speak a little bit louder. I can't hear you. I'm not joking. There's a lot of shouting here.
Yeah, I know, but I read it in German, so I don't know how to translate it properly. But it's basically about the thoughts you have and how you're acting. What kind of thoughts you allow to have an impact on your actions. I don't know how to translate it any better. It is about existence, but also about brain and psyche. I don't know. Sorry.
What's the difference between existence and what you just said?
What's
the big difference?
I really can't say it in English. I'm very sorry.
Okay, fine.
And we're going to go on now because we didn't want it to derail so much. We just wanted to listen to the discussions. We didn't really want
Okay.
to
Sorry for
participate.
dragging you into this.
No, it's alright.
Just, go around, see whatever discussions you want. Thank you for talking.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. Come here, man. Come here. Let's talk.
The issue is, it's like the axiom. You have to. If you're going to think about this shit, what do you base anything on? What is the absolute thing that you know is to be true that you can base everything else from?
No, that's the problem. There is no thing such as that.
So, like Descartes was, I think, therefore I am. So he acknowledges that you are there
in some shape or form. That he might
you're
not
alive.
know about it, you're not alive, that you exist in some shape or form. Now, the problem is, our perception of existence is very finite. We do not have all kinds of existence that are possible.
But all of those
so
things,
we can never know how we actually exist.
I know, I think, therefore I am. You know that you think, therefore I am, right? So you can then go nihilism.
Yes, in some kind of way, I do exist, but my existence might be as the product of imagination of a superior being. It is also possible. And in that scenario, my existence is almost nullified. Because I don't have any will, I don't have any power, I don't have anything. I'm just the product of an imagination. I'm like a character in a book that somebody wrote. I don't actually exist, but I kind of exist. You know what I mean?
I'll tell you where I'm at, right? I think, therefore I am. Right?
Now, I'm not saying that I think that. I'm saying it's just a possibility.
Let me speak. That's what I feel, right? Yep. So, anyone else here?
Yo, Shankman.
Anyone else here? That is like the basis of my philosophy. I think, therefore I am.
Okay.
Right? So, I know that something is going on in my head, or my heart, or my foot, wherever thought exists. So I will treat everyone else who's got a head, a heart, or a foot equally. Because I assume that they are doing the same.
Fine,
right?
that's your choice.
Right? When you try and extrapolate it beyond that, that is not that is not a route that I don't. That is not a route that I can quantify in any way, right? Okay. I don't think that you can. I don't think you.
I missed the extrapolation. What was the extrapolation?
Well, no, the extrapolation.
Yeah, I mean, I didn't do any extrapolation beyond that. We were talking actually something completely different. Yo, soy boy, how's it going?
Soy milk.
Come here. Soy milk. Soy power.
Soy power.
Soy power. Dude, we were just talking about transgenderism, and I was trying to, man, those poor girls. Seriously, those poor girls. Dude, they've been very much indoctrinated. Honestly, they don't actually think for themselves. I mean, one of the girls, the one who apparently spoke German, she did know some knowledge. She did have some knowledge of philosophy, so she did know a few things. She didn't understand some things that I told her. But the problem is, they didn't actually understand my main point. That I'm not opposing openly transgenderism, but I'm saying it shouldn't be encouraged. It shouldn't be, done in a large scale, because it's not beneficial for society in any way, shape or form. And there's only so much stuff that's not beneficial for the society that the society keep practicing, because it's a burden. Every single small thing that is not actively improving society, that society implements in itself, is a small burden, and eventually it becomes a big burden. And the Western society has lots of those burdens. That's a big problem.
Okay, but mentioning these burdens, you realize as well, I mean, I can't speak for them, but you realize when you're talking about society, you're talking about it from your individual perspective.
Well, that's always the case,
That's
man.
always the case.
No matter how you try to distort it, it's always the case.
The next question is, who are you to say what's beneficial?
Who am I? Good question. Good question.
And yeah, so maybe you should answer that first.
Good question. An answer to that is, I am someone who can justify my opinions. Okay. I'm someone who can give good justification, a good reason, and a good meaning to my opinions, and thus my opinions should be respected and implemented in the current world society.
Over others?
Yes. If I can prove my point to others and they cannot prove their point to me, I win, and my idea should be implemented.
Right. Okay.
That is my ideology. I mean, it's not always like that.
But on what account? On what account? I mean, on just by the fact that your argument is more coherent, you think that's reason enough for society as a whole to kind of accept your point of view, or people who generally, let's say, win in arguments point of view?
Yeah, that's a good point too. Because some people here in Speaker's Corner, especially some of the Muslim preachers, they're very good. They're very good speakers.
Because some people win arguments. But
yeah,
don't really
because
win
they
it.
Can win arguments.
They don't really win it with reason.
Exactly.
They win it with people.
Yeah, but the problem with them is they don't win it with truth. They don't win it with reason. They win it with fallacies because they are proficient at them. They are big professionals in leading the other party to places where the other party doesn't want to be.
Talked about this.
Yes.
Sophists.
Not only sophists.
But
Socrates was really not very trusty of democracy, because democracy is very fragile to something that they call the demagogues. The demagogues are very charismatic, very good, well-spoken people who can impose their ideals to other people without actually justifying them properly. And thus the public thinks that they agree, they think that the point is just and reasonable, when in reality it's not. That's the big problem of demagogues.
Do you have an example of that, though? Let's have an example.
Okay, an example of that.
We need examples.
A direct example from Socrates is one of the Greek generals whose name I don't actually remember, honestly.
All right, okay.
I studied that guy a while ago.
Have examples?
But wait, let me just finish this part. So that guy basically, he made Athens do an expedition to Sicily, and the expedition greatly backfired and brought Athens to its knees. I don't remember his name exactly, but if anybody searches it up, you can find it.
Because Bush Blair had wars. Some of them were good, like for example, like Kosovo. They had Kosovo, they had East Timor, they had Sierra Leone.
What do you mean good? What do you mean by good?
No, I'm not.
You're just throwing
out.
But
look, demagogues.
Okay,
demagogues are not necessarily people who are negative for society.
Sierra Leone. Would you say that was good or bad?
I don't know about the Sierra Leone. I don't know.
I would have said that.
Yeah, I never heard of that before.
Alright, I would say that was good.
I don't think it's a very large scale.
But what do you mean when you say good? That's so subjective. Like you're just throwing the word out.
Yeah, I mean,
no, I'm happy to say that
the
word
good
out.
wars for USA were the wars where they had
No,
something
I'm
to
happy
gain.
to say that was
There
a good
weren't
war.
wars where they improved the lives of the conquered
Most
people.
Sierra Leone thought that was a good war.
That's the
yeah,
thing.
I mean, the word good is a bit, this is the thing about when you're arguing with people as well.
It was good for the US, not
When
good for
people
the
use
people
the
they
word- When
conquered.
people use words like good, like for example, good in ancient Greece, it meant, when you say good, it means like powerful.
Do you think?
If you're powerful, you're good.
Right. Do
If
you
you're
think-
weak,
are
you're
you
bad.
gonna- are
Yeah,
you-
there is some truth to that.
The word itself, you have to be careful of how you use
To a
words,
certain
because-
extent, victory means justice in our world. The strong do what they can, and the weak suffer what they must.
Well, that's another word, justice. Does justice mean getting
Good.
your way, or just doesn't mean like fairness and equality? Because a lot
Justice
of people,
means
they don't
the
see
way
justice
the way
as
that
a-
people are being ruled, the way that people are punished for the choice of certain sins. What you call a sin, that's what justice dictates. What you call a good thing in a person, that's what justice dictates. So justice is that thing. But the thing is, justice is dictated by the others. You can have any justice you want. If other people don't accept it and don't implement it in their own morality, your justice
Or
basically
you can
doesn't
define
exist.
these terms beforehand. Or you can have. Or you can.
What do you mean by that?
can keep
Oh, okay.
redefining them.
You're talking about good. You're talking about justice.
Yeah.
Or you can, irrelevant of the final result. Your idea of justice, your idea of good, could be something independent of whatever the result will be, whatever your thoughts are. You can define these terms beforehand, and then you're not fucking arguing about a point. Going da 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 da.
What do you mean by that? It's somebody
just kick
somebody
it up.
who's
Oh,
born
right,
in a
okay.
society where they have
we can
a
all
certain
get, we can all get a
justice.
football and kick it around and go, oh, this word means something, this word's something else. We can all kick around a football if you want. Or you can define a word at the
Yeah, but
start.
this is the problem, because you know how hard it is for two people
Then
to
define a word,
define
then.
a word and have the same interpretation.
Then start that from. If you're going to discuss something,
Especially a word
have
like
a word.
good,
All right,
good
okay.
or justice.
If you're going to use a word good or justice, define it from the start. Then don't say like because you know what?
But the thing is, you cannot define it. But you
I
can't.
don't know.
Okay,
a
have
fucking,
fun, guys. Have fun.
I
I'll let you argue for
I
it.
don't know a Greek person.
Dude, I'm very sad that the conversation about transgenderism went downhill because I was just about to prove a point there. And I didn't prove shit because the girls left, like the conversation derailed.
Actually, I do.
And that's it. That's it. The conversation was over.
Don't worry, you'll get them next time. Defining words, yeah. Defining a word. Yeah.
I'm going to follow you.
No, he's saying that to him it doesn't make sense to talk about how the Greeks
Defined a word.
defined words like good and justice because we live in this society. And I'm saying to him it's actually quite important because words like good and justice,
But then define the
they go
word.
through development.
Define what you mean by the word.
So let me just give you an example. As I was mentioning
okay.
earlier to Pavlov, the word good in ancient Greece it meant powerful. If you were powerful, you were good. Like Zeus, for example, or those gods, they were good because they were powerful. If you were weak, you were bad. Now in this society, good means something like polite or kind or helpful.
No, I agree with that. Right?
So
Okay.
this is the point I'm trying to make. When you're defining words, you have to be very careful.
Yeah.
Because
So that's my point. It's like when you
can
use the word
misunderstand
good, it's like we have to be very clear. There's no point arguing about the definition of a word when you mean one thing and I've accepted something else.
So what are you talking about? What do you mean?
Because
You say come to the same definition. What do you mean?
well, you have to define your terms.
Yeah, but that's the whole point. It's extremely difficult to define terms because, as I mentioned to you, words.
No, I fully accept that.
Words, and also not just words, but human beings. They go through changes as we evolve, as societies
I
evolve.
fully accept that.
The human being of
fully
5,000
accept
years
that.
ago is quite different. From the
No, I
human
fully
being.
accept that.
The human being in the Western society is quite different.
No, I fully accept all these points. It's just like
So it's extremely difficult to.
it's like if you're going to go down to a path about talking to someone, you can't just go, oh, but the way you defined it is different. Like you have to
come to agreement.
You have to at the start go, when I say good, I mean this, and we have to go like, yes, let's only talk about that. If we're going to talk about something else, fine. Peace be with you. Life is beautiful. We're all humans, and all we can do is just spout whatever nonsense in our head. But if people talk and then they go 5 minutes down the conversation and then go, oh, but what you said, when you said good, I mean it by something else, and then you have to backtrack for 20 minutes. To me, I just think that's cheap.
Yeah, well, that's good. It's good.
Like,
At least you agree that we have to define terms.
Yeah. Like at the very start, it's like, what is the issue? It's like to me,
a pleasure, man.
to me, it's like peace be with you. Peace be with you, everyone here. Like let's find the answers.
That's the way to end the chat. That's the way to end.
What is that? What?
The microphone splits up all the sound.
I think that's a bit slow.
But the society. Maybe we need that.
I gave them power, I gave them knowledge, I gave them and what they did, they took the money of the old.
Vad gott att få det.
Ask the girl. What about incest? Okay. Let's come on.
Where did you get this?
From that man over there.
I know her from Facebook and I just haven't met her in person. Just bear with me 1 second.
And we know people have money that they can burn their house to get warm. In front of our eyes, everybody is my career, my holiday, my home, my business, my stuff. The bigger house, the bigger car, the bigger holiday.
I don't want children. I don't want to share.
If I have 10,000, I don't have problem. Got the gist of it.
No, you're going to. We're playing.
Let me finish in 2 sentences. We develop, you became progressive, but your nature will never change because your nature will be the same as your forefather or Humanity is. Oh, let me finish. So this point, I want to emphasize that what I know is there, my brother. People are, their gods are their film stars, their idols are different. You think different, but come to common term and learn from each other. Common term and what? That we have a one creator and be careful. As a human being, when God says in the Quran that there was a time that you were not even a thought. Imagine.
Yeah, okay.
It's so true. Then you come, then you become a human, then you rape, then you cheat. What gives you the right as a human being?
He'll be here in a minute. Go on.
As a human being to another human being, I should cheat somebody because I can do it and I can get away with it?
No one's watching, but we know God is watching.
Thank
this is the
you.
difference.
But so what? Okay, God is watching.
Right,
so what? So what?
You will know at the end. Don't worry.
No. But I'm not know now. I want to know now.
Yeah, go on. Who wants to know now? Come
I
back
want to
in.
know now.
Yeah.
What is the issue? What is the issue?
The issue is God is pure, he wants purity.
So what does
God
that
is
mean?
just, he wants justice.
What does that mean
God
for
is,
me? What does that mean for me, my
means
individual life?
If individual life,
Yeah.
if you are a human being, your natural instinct tells you you are limited.
No, it doesn't. No, it doesn't. Not everybody thinks like that.
Stop.
You think like that, and you think everyone else thinks.
No, but
like
I
that.
speak the truth. I think.
How?
Okay, stop. Okay,
This is
stop.
really interesting.
Stop getting sick if you can do it yourself. Stop
Listen,
dying. Stop getting old.
Listen.
Does this come from original sin?
No, I'm saying limitation in
No,
humanity.
Muslims don't believe in original sin.
Oh, all right.
I'm saying
they-
limitation
the
in humanity.
the Muslims believe it was a mistake. It wasn't a sin. It was a mistake.
Wait, you believe us taking Adam and Eve plucking the apple?
Yeah, it was.
That's
a
the
mistake.
original sin. isn't it?
No, it's a mistake. It's not as
But
heavy
he
as
said,
a sin.
but he said, forgive me.
Yeah.
Actual sin.
Christians think it's actual
In
sin.
Islam theology, Satan and Adam did the same thing. What? Disobeying God. Satan said, it's your fault. Adam said, Rabbana zalamna anfusana. Oh my Creator, oh my Lord, I did wrong to myself. That's why Adam was
Theological
forgiven
at the
and
moment,
Satan was
but-
cursed
Yeah.
in Islamic theology.
You know,
What about Eve? Was Eve forgiven?
Yeah, of course, humanity.
Well, before
Allah
before
said
that, women could give birth without any pain. After that,
So
God gave her
that's
pain.
your way of thinking. Our way of thinking is different.
They don't think
In the Bible, women giving birth is a punishment.
Right.
But in the Islamic theology, the Prophet says if a child sacrificed themselves for their mother, they cannot pay the 1 minute of childbirth.
Islam is gynocentric. I told you.
yeah.
So you wouldn't be a believer
Islam,
then? No?
okay, in 1880, in London, people used to auction their wives. 1500 years ago, a man came in his deathbed. He said, be careful of your prayers.
Look, you're preaching.
And be just to your women.
What's the discussion?
I know. I don't know because he's preaching.
Yeah.
That's why.
Because
How
what
do
I
we-
would,
how do we
no,
get
what-
from
yeah,
where
yeah,
you-
yeah.
No, I'm talking about reality.
Yeah,
That
you can
in
have your say because
1880,
you heard the
when
initial
people were
kind of
auctioning, my
idea.
point is,
Coexisting
when
and-
a society auctions their wife in 1880, 200 years ago. When a society, a man came 1400 years ago, he said, be careful, your wife's got your rights upon you. They say it's barbaric.
So what are we going to do then?
No.
Yeah, go on.
What are we going to do?
Yeah, what are we going to do? How can we coexist?
This is what you were saying about the board game earlier. This is the force that we need.
And you identified that immediately, didn't you? When you said you can see there's a force of chaos has come into the...
Yeah. I didn't
Your
see
man
it that
came
way.
and said, your wife.
But I mean, it could have been any individual. Like chaos just happens whenever. Like
Some
I
individuals
left.
are more chaotic than other individuals.
But even in my absence, there was chaos.
Yes,
Because for a moment there's
we need you to restore order and direct the thoughts to bring something positive.
We try and bring it back round. I think we're going to end up on a different strand of conversation.
Because can I put the board game out again? See, Mo over there, I want to be able to I want my generations to coexist with Mo's generations and his generations and their generations on this small boat called Great Britain. We can see that there are forces that are bringing us closer together and they're forces that are pushing us further apart.
Yeah.
We experienced the closeness when we were talking about the transgender, where I said, and I did mean it. For me as a Christian, looking at the history of Christianity in Islamic countries, I'd be tempted to say I'd rather pay the jizya and live in a rather than live under the increasingly satanic structures that are being put into place and they're going to affect my family's salvation. So this means how are we with atheists and Muslims and Christians going to avoid what I can see, is it called a conflagration? What do they have? You know, where
conflagellation,
apocalyptic conflagration.
But you don't know what I'm going to say to you.
Yeah, go
Can I
on. Now you say, yeah.
You just said, how can we get together stuff?
Generationally.
But you know that in our tradition, we believe that Christians and Muslims, a point will come that they will get together.
Okay, that's good.
And fight against evil.
Revelation.
Yeah.
Do you know that?
Yeah, I did.
Do you know
yes,
that?
yep.
Oh.
Yeah. Can't say it again.
The cooler to fight evil.
Yes.
What's the evil?
The evil that we ask.
No, you're all
young
right. It's
ladies,
conflagration.
What's your thought about incest?
Conflagration.
Because I know that the Battle for Berlin,
That's
that's
the
when I
evil
first came across that.
Right,
term,
okay,
and
yeah.
It was kind of,
Well, it's interesting we get onto
We had this topic last
I'm
week.
a Christian, yeah. It wasn't always, but, you know. Yeah, so would you, do you
Britain's
see
more
that
of an
this is
issue.
inevitable, that these camps will be brought into increasing conflict? And can the good people in each of the camp come together beyond their camp, if that makes sense? Can I just explain this and then you can dive in? Because I used to not be a Christian, I used to dislike Christians. Then I became a Christian, then I disliked other Christians.
You're an atheist.
Yeah. But then I got drawn to more the common ground based on you being a good person, a person of goodwill, a person attempting imperfectly to live a righteous life. I'd rather live closer to a Muslim like that than a Christian who was a Christian in everything, but exactly. So he'd be doing things and saying things, wicked things, and doing immoral things.
But you have
just
those
because
with
he's a
Muslims too.
yeah, I agree. And could Mo? No, but what I'm saying is it possible? Is it possible for both of us, for me and Mo, to come together outside of our camps based on righteousness, without being sucked back in by all the other people in the camp saying you're a sellout, which keeps us. That's kind of the and likewise with an atheist. See, I can see there's goodwill. You know, that's kind of what I'm wrestling.
What he's asking is,
I mean, when you say goodwill and living a good, according to what? Like,
Judeo-Christian and Islamic, the best in all of those. Abrahamic. Yeah.
What he's asking fundamentally.
No, when I say good as a Muslim,
just can I?
Let him just say this one, then we'll spin it
even
round.
within the same religion, there are quite stark differences. So, for example, if you're a Christian, you're probably aware that the Episcopalian Church actually supports women getting abortions. So I'm wondering how you feel about that.
No, the point I'm making is you're giving me information free. It hasn't been monetized. You should have said, if you're monetizing everything, say, I'll give you that information if you pay me. But you're willing to give it for free. So not everything is monetized.
But what I'm trying to do...
Give them broad strokes.
No, but I also have benefited from what you said earlier. So in kindness, I've also told you what the station is. But there are people actually who you ask... There are people who you ask and they wouldn't know where the station is and they might give you the completely wrong direction.
That's his point. That's his point, is it's all about reciprocity.
No, it's not. It's a matter that if it doesn't cost you too much, people will do things for whatever reason. It may be, my ex-wife would say they always do it because they're pleased in helping somebody else, but that she was taking more of this than you are, that everything has a value. However, many people do things for charity things where there's no real advantage.
That's not true. No, that's not true.
But there's no real
people who work in charities, they do it for their own self-satisfaction. They could do it for their own propaganda. Like you'd be surprised. A lot of people who work for Amnesty International, speak to them personally and listen to their views.
I agree with you. Look,
they're just there for the money.
That's slightly different from the charity work that I'm talking about. For example, I was talking to a woman yesterday who sits on the canals and tries to persuade people to join a thing to clean up the canals.
Yeah.
She's not getting paid for that. She does it part-time.
Well, how do you know? She might be a millionaire.
Yep. She may be, but she hasn't become a millionaire from telling people to clean up the canal or suggesting they join a group to clean up the canals.
So, but what are you trying to say about human nature? What you're saying?
I'm saying it's more complicated than to say we live in a monetarized society.
No, I agree with that. But I also think the human being is an ongoing phenomenon. The human being changes. The human being evolves. Are you saying no to that?
No. I'd say that, for example, Adam Smith in his argument that people don't do things for you because they like you. They do it because they get money back and they get money for the service they're providing. I'm not disputing that. I'm just saying that a sophisticated Western society like this, it's more complicated than that old monetarist thing. For example, up to about 1910, you didn't need any form of ID to come and live in London. You could just turn up and live here. The reason for that was you were just as free to starve on the streets of London and elsewhere. People only started to get concerned about immigration and things when they thought people were coming here to get something. Before that, you could starve here, nobody cared. And so we live in a more sophisticated society than say, prior to 1900, or certainly prior to 1945 with the welfare state. Now it's quite possible you won't starve in this country if you do no work. They will feed you and they'll keep you in hospital so you're well on the streets again. But that's very different from, say, 100 years ago, where you'd been quite free to starve.
What do you do for a living?
I am...
Well, so not really relevant. But
it is.
Right.
Well, when he answers the question, I'll tell you.
Well, why does he have to answer your question?
What do you do for a living?
I'm a retired person.
But you got paid in your previous occupation?
Yes.
Well, there you go.
Yes, I agree.
And that's what the system's all based on.
Yes, but there are other parts of the system as well.
monetary gain.
Yes,
Completely.
we live in a society where
I think
that's
what
true.
the point he's trying to make is not every action is driven by monetary gain.
In your previous
I would
example,
agree with that.
in your previous example of the game, who was the raptor in that game?
There is none. It's a matter of assessing whether you think
There was a raptor. There was.
Who was the raptor?
Well, I know. I'm asking you.
Well, you can
because
argue,
you
you
do
can
know.
argue the person who set up the game, who are the
Exactly.
authorities, are doing that.
Exactly.
No, well, that doesn't give you anything. That's just
It does.
Yeah, I know.
You're just throwing something in and running away.
It does have a certain point, because one of the first things that all states do is take the right to take life away from individuals. That's one of the
Take away
fundamental.
the right to take lives from individuals.
Yes, so that they have a monopoly on it.
You're talking about gun rights and things like that.
No.
They're just the ultimate opposite force.
You are not in this country. You're not allowed to kill people just because you don't like them.
Right.
Although Parliament can if it really wants to,
Well,
and
we
has
don't have
done
the
it in the
death
past.
penalty. We don't have the death penalty.
So through the military.
No, but Parliament tomorrow morning can pass legislation saying we don't like you, we want you dead. They haven't done it for a few hundred years, but they've certainly done it in the past.
They can if they want to. Yes, they can.
But the point is whether they kill people or just imprison them for life. You are not allowed to imprison people, and you're not allowed to kill people. And that's those are two things that states take almost immediately when they become a state, are those two things. So he's quite right. The game in that case is being controlled by the maker of the game. But that's to do with the state. Yes.
Whereas what I was trying to get at was more the sort of natural equilibrium that sort of comes about when just there are players involving three main different strategies.
But I think it's much more to do with your perception of what the other people are as well, as to how you.
There's that as well, yeah. That's when cooperation and reciprocity and trust come into it.
Yes. So I don't think you can just say someone who's innately aggressive and necessarily.
I mean, in the context of morality, what I was trying to argue is that there are certain moral precepts that just sort of persist throughout because the game is never really like what? You have to moral precepts of self-defense, for instance. It's just sort of accepted that the raptor strategy is you're nice to people, but you hold a firm stick.
Well, this is interesting because there are some societies who don't even believe in self-defense. Like I think James, for example, they're attacked, they don't attack
like a
back.
collection of interesting people here. What are you talking about?
You missed the interesting collection. They're all gone off.
Oh, really?
Yeah, Colin was here.
What do you think about human nature? Do you think then that there's all kinds of possibilities for human nature, or you're saying that
Checkman.
Human nature is extremely difficult
because
to
you're saying
find.
you said earlier it's complicated. It's more
Not
complicated
that
than what we're talking about. So.
Yes, because I don't think you can say that everyone does everything for self-interest, and
So
I don't think you can
you're
equally
saying you
say
can't
that
reduce
people are necessarily aggressive because they're aggressive.
Right. So you're saying you can't reduce human nature to this or that. It's more complicated.
I think it depends on the
But at
society
the
in which
same
one.
time,
It depends on the society in which one lives.
Is it fair to say?
You
think
does it
humans
depend on the
defend
society
self-interest
100%?
above all?
Does it depend on the society 100%, or is it partly
The two Jamies.
biological?
I give you. Can I answer that in a slightly roundabout way? I lived in South Africa for a time, and a man came into work one day who'd just been done for going through a set of traffic lights without stopping. It turned out he was colourblind, and he hadn't seen the lights. And I've often pondered on that. Why is it mainly men, and about 10% of the population, that have colour blindness problems? Because you would have thought that the gene would have long since been edited out through being eaten. I talked to him about this, and we came to this conclusion. He'd been in the South African army fighting terrorists up in Angola. And when
Terrorists?
they were... terrorists, as they say in South Africa.
Terrorists?
Terrorists.
What kind of terrorists? In Angola,
No.
No. We need to speak about this. No, guys.
Pavlov, no. This is not your.
He just told us he's going to answer questions.
It doesn't matter. He perceived
Yes,
them
it
to be
does matter.
terrorists.
There were 3 different rebellious fronts in Angola.
Wait,
There was the
you're
Pavlov,
taking it off on a
it's
tangent.
not a history lesson. Pavlov, it's
Who
not a canon
are you
issue.
calling terrorists?
I'm not calling anyone terrorists.
You're talking about
I
terrorists.
quoted him.
Pavlov, come on. Just ignore him.
I quoted him. He called them terrorists.
Okay, terrorists.
So you didn't specify your position.
Whatever, okay, keep on.
Let the
But
gentleman speak.
what he could do, because he's colourblind, is he could see footfalls in grass that coloured-sighted people couldn't see. Now, if you think about primitive hunter-gatherer groups, it doesn't make much sense for people who are collecting berries to be colourblind, because if they are, they'll probably collect ones which will kill you. So maybe if women do most of the berry gathering, it doesn't. There's no advantage to that. But if you're a group of men, shall we say about 10 going out on a hunting party, having one who is colour blind may be a help in tracking things.
Yeah.
Now, that's a very primitive, from a very primitive society, but we're not very far from that, really. We've been civilized, in inverted commas, for about 5,000 years.
There's also
So
the
you're
idea
saying, no, sorry, let me just try, sorry.
Yeah, I'll come back.
So what you're saying is really, we haven't really changed much. The only change that has happened really is the socialization of human beings. But underneath, really, they are still that primitive hunter-gatherer.
But more than that, I think there are reasons for diversity in the ability to see.
Yes.
There may also be diversities in the way we think and all sorts of other things for exactly the same reason, because we're actually equipped to be in small hunter-gatherer bands. That's our origins. And when we build more sophisticated societies to a certain degree, you can't get away from that.
I wanted to ask something about colour blindness as well, because it's not even necessarily the case that there's an advantage for that gene to persist in the gene pool. It's just that gene doesn't necessarily bring such a heavy disadvantage.
Yes, I
if that makes sense.
totally agree with you.
It's like
But
males as well.
I would have thought that colour blindness would
That's the
be
thing,
a pretty serious disadvantage.
I mean,
I don't know how far
a lesser
back
disadvantage is an advantage.
Sorry?
A lesser disadvantage
turns
is
out to be an advantage.
Yeah, okay, yeah.
Oh, you could
Yeah.
say having a very high IQ population in a country is a disadvantage.
You've really got to work on your segues, man.
How can you say that having a high IQ in a population is a disadvantage?
Because if you had people who are more on the lower IQ areas, and they are a lot more reactionary
I can answer your
in like finding out problems. No, people with high IQ tend to be very agreeable and tend to want to...
high IQ?
Yeah.
Agreeable?
Yeah.
Let me answer your
I
point.
disagree.
IQ is a good
I
predictor
disagree.
of financial success over a lifespan. So it's only really relevant to talk about IQ so long as we've had money in society.
Remember in Finland, Finland has a very high average IQ population, yet they're very conformist. Because
It's not a Canada ship, Pavlov, man. Don't take it closer.
I know exactly what you're doing here. I know exactly what you're doing.
I'm just saying that we need a balance, It's no advantage to have a mostly low IQ, it's no advantage to have a mostly high IQ. There needs to be a balance.
Okay. Sorry, what was your name, sir?
My name is Philip.
James.
Nice to meet you.
It's a pleasure to meet you and talk game theory. I can't remember how we got onto game theory, but we were tackling a point that you were actually struggling with a while ago. Do you remember when we were with IT3 and quite a few other people, and we were talking about moral rules?
Yeah.
So I was arguing that some moral rules are emergent from a natural situation that occurs, whereby you have certain players on the board. They're all permitted to do whatever they want, but there are three major strategies involved. The dove strategy, which is never attack, the hawk strategy, which is always attack, and the raptor strategy, which is only attack. The hawks.
The third one.
The third one is raptor. Sorry.
Raptor strategy.
Which is only attack when attacked.
Why is it the raptor strategy?
Because they like the sound of it. I don't know. I'm not actually sure of the etymology of game theory, but
who made it up?
Game theory. Actually, who was it? Was it Robert Nash that came up with game theory?
But it's been around certainly since the 70s.
Yeah. So the raptor strategy is only attack when attacked. Now, when you only have doves on the board, doves persist. When you only have hawks on the board, hawks tend to persist as the majority.
Well, yeah, because you don't have any